A rather intriguing running back prospect has committed to the University of Louisville.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the University of Louisville, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. A rather intriguing running back prospect has committed to Jeff Brohm's Louisville Cardinals. 2026 three-star prospect Lekhy Thompkins has joined Flyville 26. Really intriguing prospect. 6'2", 230 pounds. We're going to break down what he brings to the Cardinals program here in just a moment. We'll talk about CBS Sports releasing their top 25 Power 4 head coaching rankings. Jeff Brohm sitting at number 17. I'm okay with that, but I think he could actually be a couple spots higher. More on that here in just a moment. And we found out on Memorial Day where the Louisville baseball team was going to land in the postseason. They are back in the big dance, and they are in the Nashville Regional with the number 1 seeded Vanderbilt Commodores. It is going to be a very, very challenging road ahead this weekend. We'll break down everything you need to know about that regional and more coming up. So we start on the football side of things. Louisville has gotten another 2026 commitment. And this is a player that Keith Artov and I had discussed a couple weeks ago. 3-star running back Lekhy Thompkins chose the Louisville Cardinals over the other two teams in his top 3, Minnesota and Memphis. As I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Lekhy Thompkins is 6'2", 230 pounds. That is an absolutely large running back. I mean, players that size usually don't play that position, but he is extremely effective. This past year as a junior, 892 yards on the ground and 10 total touchdowns. He has played a ton of high school football over the years, plays for University School of Jackson down in Jackson, Tennessee. So Louisville actually won this recruitment over the Memphis Tigers, who are, by proximity standards, I mean, the clear choice. But when asked why Louisville, he brought up a couple different things. The first thing was his relationship with Chris Barkley, the former Louisville High School product. Shout out to the Bulldogs. Shout out to Bulldog Nation, male high school alumni, which I also am a part of. He basically says, it just felt like home. It was a great feeling, so that's why I committed to the Ville. He says Coach Barkley stayed in contact with me the whole time and showed me and my mom a lot of love. He came down here to Tennessee a couple of times to see me practice and spent time with us and really got to know me. So it just all felt great to me. Of course, this quote is coming from Cardinal Authority, Louisville's 247sports.com site. Also, I thought it was pretty interesting that he mentioned some past running backs. Louisville's starting to become this running back factory. He specifically mentions Juar Jordan and Isaac Garendo in 2023, and then Duke Watson and Isaac Brown in 2024. And when you have in your 2 seasons at Louisville, you have 2 elite level backfields to boast and brag about, it's sort of easier. It's not easy, but it's easier to recruit players at the running back position. That's why they have Evan Hampton already committed, 4-star running back from Owensboro, and they're bringing in another running back to this class. I am perfectly fine, and I would almost expect moving forward that the Cardinals are bringing in, at the very, very minimum, 1 running back per class, probably 2. And I'm okay with that because it's a by-committee approach every year. Jeff Brohm has shown, yes, we run a pro-style offense. We have guys that can stand out. and you're going to share the touches and the carries, but that doesn't mean that it's going to take away from what you show NFL scouts. You're going to get the opportunities. And I think that Lekhy Thompkins basically just mentions that. It's like, hey, look, I mean, they built a relationship with me and my family, and they have the track record of producing really solid backs. And it's not just, one profile of running back. He also mentions that, there's this sort of I don't know what you would call it, sort of a 1A, 1B type thing, like a Jekyll and Hyde almost. That might not be the best way to compare it, but you have sort of a smaller running back in stature that's used as that speed running back. And then you have the large running back that can churn out those yards, but both can be equally as effective. And they sort of complement each other and gives the running back committee overall strengths, and it's really hard to game plan against. Evan Hampton is more of that speed back, and now you have the strength with Lekhy Thompkins, 6'2", 230 pounds. One thing with a player that size, I wondered, okay, what are the measurables in terms of speed? What's he testing like? And I don't have those numbers, but when you watch the highlight tape, he's blowing by guys. He's getting to that second level of the defense, and he's getting in a foot race with these players and winning it a good amount of the time. Now, you do have to wonder about the level of competition. I'm not sure what the level of competition looks like down in Jackson, Tennessee. But Tennessee is usually a solid football state, but something that really makes me encouraged. This past year, 20 catches, 342 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So you're telling me that a player at 6'2", 230 pounds can get the yards in between the tackles. He can put enough open field speed on display to blow by defenders in the secondary. But he also is agile and has good hands and is able to turn catches into big-time gains. A guy this size shouldn't be able to move this well. 6'2", 230 pounds. So I think that the potential is just off the charts here with Lekhy Thompkins. Now, something else that intrigues me, I talked about him being an intriguing running back prospect. Truthfully, you could take out the words running back, because he's just an intriguing prospect, because there have been notable recruiting analysts say that if he didn't decide to pursue a career at running back, he could be a good edge rusher. In 2024, he had 45 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Like, when you see national recruiting analysts say that, yeah, this is a guy that could be a top 247 guy on defense, and you're just sitting there like, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. And, I mean, just the possibilities that you have. Because think about it. Even if it doesn't work out at running back. Now, again, in this day and age of college sports, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, because some players leave after 1 year. I mean, there's no telling if there's going to be any consistency or continuity for a player in a certain system. So you would have to have the patience of both Thompkins and the coaching staff here. But I mean, you have options if you are Jeff Brohm and company. Let's say if maybe running back isn't the spot for him, and you say, well, listen here, Coach English, Coach Ivy, Coach Hagan, I think that there are some traits of his that could lead him to be a solid difference maker on the defense. And you start to work him out on the defense, and 6'2", 230 could be one of those stand-up linebackers in the Cardinals system. I don't know too much about him as a defender, and I'm hoping that we don't have to focus on that, and he's just that good on offense. But I saw some people on social media say, oh, wow, Louisville got another running back committed, almost kind of saying it like they were annoyed. And I was like, man, I'm okay with this, because it's pretty clear that the ground game is the focal point of the Cardinals offense. And the Cardinals passing attack plays off of the ground game, the play action, and everything else. It's a pro offense. And I am really excited to see that Louisville got a commitment from Lekhy Thompkins. This is awesome work from Jeff Brohm, Chris Barkley, and company. But speaking of Jeff Brohm, there was a recent publication put out by Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports where he ranked the top 25 Power 4 college football coaches entering the 2025 season. Jeff Brohm landed in the top 20, which I loved to see. But I got to be honest, Card Nation, I felt like he probably could have been ranked a couple spots higher. And I'll explain why and who he should have been ranked higher than when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. First, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you're ever like me and you're checking your bank account and you're like, hold on, where's my money at? And sometimes it's hard to keep track. There's online shopping, there's DoorDash, there's, getting food out, dining out, fast food, you name it. That's where Monarch Money needs to come into play. It's your personal CFO that gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Look, it's not just another budgeting app. You need to use it as a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch about a month ago, I finally realized how much I was spending on food delivery and eating out. And look, sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, but now I understand and I budget smarter and I save more because I understand how much I can spend. So take control of your finances as well with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Card Nation, thanks again for making this your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville is free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. As I mentioned right before the break, CBS Sports' Tom Fornelli released an article titled Ranking the Top 25 Power 4 College Football Coaches Entering the 2025 Season. It was an article where CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports experts have ranked every coach from 1 to 68 as the season approaches. Now, apparently this is the 10th year that they have done this, and understand that this is, there's probably some bias involved, but for the most part, this is a national approach, and there is some bias, but it's hard to separate where that lies. So this is just a matter of opinion. There's no right or wrong answer. It's really just based upon your preference. But I do like where Jeff Brohm landed in this. He's starting to get more national love, and people are starting to realize, just how much he's dealt with in terms of turning Purdue around, which is a really tough place to turn around, and having a good start to his career at Louisville. This is what was said about Jeff Brohm. Brohm is the best at taking overlooked or abandoned quarterbacks of perceived average ability and turning them into monsters. He's done it at multiple stops throughout his career and produced remarkably consistent results. We've seen what's happened to Purdue since he left, and his first 2 years at Louisville, 19-8, 12-4 in ACC, have been everything the program hoped for. You can't help but feel it's a matter of if, not when, Brohm will lead the Cardinals to a playoff berth. That is really high praise. Like, that is everything that Louisville fans hoped people would say about Brohm, and maybe just a little bit more. Now, I will say, being as selfish as I am, I do feel like, well, Brohm could be ranked just a little bit higher, and there are 3 coaches that, I'm not necessarily sold on personally as being better than Jeff Brohm. It starts with Lance Leipold at Kansas, ranked number 15. Now, I think that, he's done a really good job at Kansas, and Kansas is a tough place to succeed at. They have had more success than Purdue, but Kansas is not an easy place to succeed. And they basically, I feel like they did a really good job of not taking one-year wonders, like incredible one-year situations, and allowing that to skew the rankings. Like Brohm is ranked ahead of Mario Cristobal, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, Rhett Lashley of SMU. He's ranked ahead of Kurt Signetti at Indiana. So some coaches that have went to the playoff, he's like, look, we're going to take a full body of work into consideration here. But I think that with Lance Leipold, he had a pretty consistently, he was great at Wisconsin Whitewater, but I'm looking at the D1 ranks here. He goes to Buffalo 2015 to 2020 and goes 37-33. He comes to Kansas 2-10, 6-7, 9-4, 5-7. He's 22-28 in 4 seasons at Kansas. And look, I know that it's not really that easy to succeed with the Jayhawks program, but this was supposed to be like a breakout year in a relatively down Big 12 conference. And Kansas struggled. They went 5-7. I just don't know. And I'm looking at this, and basically says, like, this is a coach who's made a career out of winning at places nobody expects success. Like, yeah, that's true. But what Brohm did at Purdue was better than what Leipold has done at Kansas. And not to mention Brom's success at Louisville. So I would put Brohm ahead of Lance Leipold at this current moment. Another coach that is ahead of Brohm that I probably would put Jeff ahead of is Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, who is number 14. Now, you look at what Kleiman has done. He was really good at North Dakota State, and that's great. He was 69-6 at North Dakota State. Coached national champions, and I just don't know how much you can factor that into the conversation of like high D1 Power 4 coaching. You look at what he's done at Kansas State. He's 48-28, really solid. They did make a Sugar Bowl appearance in 2022 when they went 10-4. 8-5, 4-6, 8-5, 10-4, 9-4, 9-4. Like Chris Kleiman, of the three, he's probably the one where I'm like, okay, I get it. He has maybe done as much as Jeff Brohm to an extent, although Brohm went to a Big Ten championship game when he was at Purdue. Big Ten has been tougher to coach in than the Big 12, where he's turned Purdue around, and Purdue has not done well since he has left, and he's won back-to-back 9-win seasons at Louisville. So Chris Kleiman's another coach where I'm like, is he better than Jeff Brohm? I'm not going to lose sleep over Kleiman being over Brohm. Like, it's okay. I personally would put Brohm ahead of him, and I'm biased. I get it, but I think that Jeff would be ahead of him. One that I think is ranked entirely too high, and I know this is just one publication's opinion. Matt Campbell at number 10 is a little bit of a head-scratcher to me. I understand, he's one of the younger Power 4 coaches. He's been a guy that has been talked about for the past, like, half-decade is a coach that could make the jump to the NFL because he's a younger guy that has succeeded at Iowa State, which, again, not a too easy place to win at. Now, he went 35-15 from 2011 to 2015 at Toledo. Won a couple of bowl games. He comes to Iowa State in 2016 and goes 3-9, 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-3. They win a Fiesta Bowl in 2020. 7-6, 4-8, 7-6, and then in the worst Power 4 conference this past year, they go 11-3. They win the Pop-Tarts Bowl. He's 64-51 at Iowa State, and I'm like, guys, what am I missing here? I know that he has got Brock Purdy to the league, but I mean, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, so can you really put too much success on Matt Campbell's part? Now, granted, Breece Hall was electric, and I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I like Matt Campbell, but he's number 10 and Jeff Brom's number 17, and I wonder, why are they so separated in the rankings? And basically, like, I'm looking at the rationale here in the first statement. It's like, I love watching Campbell on the sidelines. From the hat with the ridiculously curved brim to the rapid-fire explicitives I'm sure are spitting out of his mouth, he runs the whole gamut of emotions in one series. let alone an entire game. It's one of the best shows in the sport. He's one of the best coaches in the sport. He went 11-3 and almost reached a playoff, but he did so in a very down Big 12 conference where the best team was either Iowa State or Arizona State. There wasn't a juggernaut in the Big 12 this past year. So Lance Leipold, I think Jeff Brohm should have been ranked higher than him. Matt Campbell, even if he's not 17 and Matt Campbell's number 10. Whether you move Brohm up or you move Campbell down, I don't care. Chris Kleiman at number 14, that's one of those I'm like, that's okay. It is what it is. I still would personally put him over Chris Kleiman. Talking about Jeff Brohm. But anyway, I'm done with my monologue for now. Let's talk a little bit about the baseball team. They're back in the big dance, but man, they have a tough road ahead of them in the Nashville Regional this upcoming weekend. We'll discuss when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, I want to remind you once again, there's only going to be 4 episodes this week with the holiday being yesterday. Hope everyone had a good Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. There's going to be 4 episodes this week, and then we will officially go into off-season mode, which I'll explain a little bit more at the end of this week, coming into June and July. But you know what that means. End of May, last week of the month, the baseball tournament is about to start. The Cardinals had a brief appearance in the ACC tournament. They got beat by Pittsburgh, and it was sad to see. Like, the Cardinals are not playing good baseball at the moment. I know that they've been hurt. I'm hoping they can get some guys back before they play this weekend. But with a chance to host a regional about 3 weeks ago, man, they just went on a skid, and they ended up getting the 2 seed in the Vanderbilt Regional. Vanderbilt got the number 1 overall seed after they won the SEC tournament, and they have been on fire since the Cardinals won the Battle of the Barrel back on May 6th, 5-4. It was a midweek game, so really hard to look too much into that. Also in the regional, number 3, East Tennessee State, and number 4, Wright State. And I would caution you to look ahead to Vanderbilt, because East Tennessee State is one of those teams in the mid-major ranks that you just don't want to see. They won the SoCon tournament, and they have been one of the best offensive teams in the country this year. They're 41-15. They have close losses in the non-conference league to Georgia, to Virginia Tech. They won a series over Pittsburgh. They even won a midweek game in extra innings over Tennessee down in Knoxville earlier in the season. They have, of the players with at least 100 at-bats, 8 players with an over 900 OPS. That's on base plus slugging. I like OPS more than I do batting average because I think it tells the tale a little bit more. It factors walks into the equation, extra base hits, all that good stuff. They have the best OPS in the tournament. 116 home runs. That's 4th in the country. Now, of course, the level of competition gets called into question. However, they still held their own against SEC teams and ACC teams. So don't overlook ETSU. The Buccaneers will be a tough out. They're going to hit the ball, and you're going to have a really good game on the mound. This is one of those like regionals. Of course, pitching matters, but this regional in particular, you've got 2 mid-majors that can hit the cover off the baseball. You've got 2 high majors that can beat top teams that can also score double-digit runs almost every single game. Vanderbilt has perhaps the hottest offense in baseball. Louisville's offense is prolific, and they're supposed to be getting some pieces back. And then you've got 2 really good mid-major offenses too. So for the Cardinals, the key here is going to be, I would imagine Patrick Forbes is going to get the start in that opening game, and the Cardinals need him in the double elimination tournament to start the regional on a good note, because Louisville doesn't really have the pitching in the bullpen to lose early and then have to claw their way up through the losers bracket and then possibly beat Vanderbilt twice. Like, your best avenue of winning here is making a statement, beating ETSU in that opening game, and then knocking off Vanderbilt, which you did. Now, look, people say, oh, well, we beat Vanderbilt before. It was a midweek game, and both teams have been trending the exact opposite directions, which, I mean, in their last 7 games, Vanderbilt has scored at least 5 runs, and that includes the SEC tournament where you're playing the best teams. So Vanderbilt, they have a great offense, but the pitching staff, that's why I'm saying that you can't go toe-to-toe pitching with the Commodores and have to beat them twice in the double elimination final. They're 9th nationally in ERA. They're 6th in WHIP, and they just have a deep, deep bullpen. They've got good starters, and they got guys that they can go to from the pen that can come in and give them solid relief. So it's going to be challenging for the Cardinals. It's going to be really challenging. And look, Wright State's going to give Vanderbilt a tough go because Wright State's got an offense that just makes things tough. Like, you have to score against these teams. And Louisville's kind of been hit or miss. Like, their offense has showed up. They've shown up more often than not. What I don't want to happen is the offense feels pressure to have to score 10 to 12 runs. Like, we've seen it all year long. We've seen it the past couple of years. The pitching staff has to show up. It starts with the starters on the bump. Like, you need Patrick Forbes and other guys to be able to step up and make the right decisions, make the right pitches, limit the walks. Walks have been a critical Achilles heel for this team really since the season started. But it's hard to feel comfortable against any of the top regional seeds because they're just so good. But the Cardinals they're 4-1 against the top 5 seeds. They won the series against North Carolina, who got the 5 seed. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Texas the first game of the year, and they lost one of the games against North Carolina. Like, on any given day, the Louisville Cardinals can go toe-to-toe with whatever team is out there. Like, there's not one team out there that if I said, Louisville is on, fire, they are playing their best ball, they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. I'm not worried about that. It's the consistency. And I'm not even looking forward to that Vanderbilt game just yet because I'm focusing on East Tennessee State. Because what's happened over the past month, the Cardinals have lost 3 straight ACC series. They lost a midweek game to Bellarmine, who had never beaten a ranked team before, and they lost to double-digit Pittsburgh in their first game of the ACC tournament, who, by the way, East Tennessee State won a series against. It's frustrating to me because this team should be much better than they are. Louisville at 39-21 should be a team, or 34-21, I'm not sure which one it is. Louisville should be a team that is hosting a regional. They've got all the talent. They've got the firepower. They've got the juice. It's just consistency. When the pitching's been there, the hitting hasn't been there. But that's really been, that's been the minority. The majority has been the hitting has shown up and the pitching's not been there. So take it a game at a time. Win that first game. You win the first game, cool. You've got yourself a great situation. You're going toe-to-toe with Vanderbilt. You have a chance to really take control of this regional. Starts with that first game. Of course, we will follow along as we get closer to the weekend, but that is going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Go Cards.